Welcome back to Grounded in Faith. It's a place in which we get to have discussions about how we live out our faith. We ground ourselves in our faith in order to live it out in the world around us. Today, I'm so excited to have Angela on the show with me. Angela, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you fill us in a little bit about where you are, who you are, and how you got here?
Okay, well, I'm a mother of four. I have four kids at home, 8, 6, 3, and 1.
So you have tons of free time.
Tons of free time. Life is simple and easy. I've been married for almost 10 years, and we moved to St. John, Indiana in 2018. Nice. So I was working and living in the city and working at a high school teaching theology to high school students.
God bless you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Nice. How was that transition from working in high school into then being at home, raising a family, and living out that vocation of motherhood?
Good. There are moments when I miss going back into the classroom and being a professional teacher and having that 8 to 3 time period of like work life. Mm-hmm. And now as a mother, it's constant, right? It's all consuming. It's my children need 100% of me all the time. And it's beautiful, but it's different. And it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. And being able to go into the classroom and stuff and living out like your faith, especially teaching theology and stuff, like those areas in which kind of you, I'm sure, saw God in your students at different moments. What are some of those like beautiful moments in your own family where God really presents himself to you and shows you his face?
Yeah, so my husband and I have been married for, like I said, almost 10 years. And we got married in 2014. And in June, and we got pregnant right at the end of July. Uh-huh. And so it was almost right away that we entered into this parenthood. And I felt like very unprepared. Like how do you know how to start parenthood? And it was very obvious that God was leading us along that way. And same with my students, right? And when I enter into the classroom, it's like they come at you with so many questions about the faith, so many
that they're really struggling with. They're trying to make sense.
So many struggles in the faith. And I loved that. I welcomed that. I wanted them to bring those things up because God was going to be right there with them. God was going to guide them. And I felt unprepared in those moments too, but God guided it. So
you talked about some of the challenges or just that trust that had happened because, getting pregnant right after getting married and all the things and just the fear of that. But then how did, I'm sure working in the classroom, there was a lot of challenges as well. What were some of those challenges and what did they look like?
Sure. So in the classroom, I taught the sacraments class to freshmen. And then to the sophomores, I taught the Old Testament class. And I feel like the students were very receptive to Old Testament. They, had no question about Jesus is really truly present in the Eucharist. But when we got to the sacraments, the part on marriage, family, there were a lot of pushback and questions about just the nuclear family. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Baby children need a mommy and a daddy. And we spent a lot of time kind of looking into the wisdom of the church. The church holds up a very high ideal of this is the beauty of marriage. This is the purpose of marriage. This is, what we are called to, right? The ideal is here, and we all fall short from that ideal. And I was striving to show my students the beauty of that. A lot of my students, a lot of people in this world come from different situations, right? We all come from broken families, harder backgrounds, right? And as a church, we open and welcome those people as well. But that doesn't mean we lower the ideal. And so within that, as I started living out my motherhood, because I got pregnant we got married in 2014, and I was teaching in the classroom from 2012, pregnant and married in 2014, and going into that role now as a mother, still in the classroom, it was a whole new experience.
Because you're teaching the ideal, but then you're like, well, how am I living out this ideal that I'm telling my students as well, right?
Exactly, right? Feeling sick. Every cell in my body was now, okay, you're not living for yourself anymore. Get out of your comfort zone. You're living for another. I actually took 50 students 3 years in a row to the March for Life. And I remember walking with them as I was pregnant with Isaac, my first, and then as I was pregnant with Josie, my second, and living out this reality that like I am birthing this child, but I'm also birthing my inner mother. Like I was discovering my inner desire to be a mother and this call to be a mother. And then also as my children get older, my role as a mother is different than Brad's role as a father, right? And as they get older, I don't know how I could do it without him as the nuclear family, as with his support. So it goes hand in hand. And I feel very blessed. I mean, that's what a grace looks like. Yeah. That's God's gift. Like, I didn't choose necessarily to be born into the family that I was born into. My parents fought through their marriage, right? They stayed married, and they showed me what it means to communicate through those hard times. And so I have that example in my own life, and my husband has that example in his life. His parents have been married for over 40, almost 50 years, right? Yeah. And so we've seen both sets of parents stay married, struggle through their marriage, and communicate through that. That is a gift. That is a grace that I don't think either of us deserve, but a blessing from God.
Yeah, it's a grace that God enters into. I love that. I think John the 23rd talks about the world doesn't need teachers, rather needs witnesses. And so as a teacher, he then goes on to think to say, like, but they'll listen to teachers if they first witness. And so being able to, like, you talk about going to the March for Life and witnessing to, like, this is truly what it means, like, living that out and everything else, but then the challenges that come with it.
And your students can smell authenticity. I mean, you walk into that classroom and they can smell it if you are living it or not living it.
Yeah.
So.
And they'll call you out too.
Oh, yeah.
That's the blessing sometimes of students as kids. Like, they have no issue saying that. Yeah, and you continue to talk about that. And your kids are still young. Like, what are some of the practical ways? Because I think there's so many people listening to this that are in the same boat that you're in, right?
Yeah.
Married or by themselves trying to raise their kids, all these things, just the struggles. Like, what are some of those really practical things that you have found to help you live out that ideal that the church offers, that says this is what the ideal looks like? How do you live it out?
So, I mean, it doesn't come right away, but I got pregnant. And then for the next 8-9 years, I was either pregnant or nursing. So, I mean, your body is pregnant for 9 months, and then you also are nourishing that baby for the next 15 months with your own body, right?
Yeah.
So, that whole experience of my hormones and my body completely being for my children was really tough on our marriage. The hormones up and down, the emotions up and down, and your husband just stays steady Eddie, right? And so just dealing and communicating through those challenges is hard. And I feel like having the support, having the communication is really important. Praying together. When we moved here in 2018, the first thing we went and we signed up for a holy hour. Mm-hmm. And so we do the 7 o'clock holy hour on Sunday evenings. And it's been one of our moments to pray for each other, to pray for our marriage, to pray for our children, that our children now come with us. We've asked, Isaac, he's 8, that he comes and he just sits there in adoration and he prays with us. But to know that we're praying for each other, with each other, and with our children is huge.
So that intentionality that comes almost like you said, even before you get to the point of we're in crisis or there's struggles, but rather setting up those things almost in advance, like you said, setting up for the holy hour, doing those things in order to keep communication open, to know that you care for each other.
And then another thing is just having a lot of grace for yourself, moments when I feel like the noise level right now, we've gotten to a point in our house where the noise level is unbearable. When I was a teacher, at 3 o'clock, the bell rang, the students left. Right now in the home, the kids come home from school at 3, and it just, everything explodes, as a lot of moms experience. And so having a moment to say, I'm very triggered by this noise right now, and taking a deep breath in that moment and saying, come Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I feel like I'm white knuckling through it, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I just have to get through this hour of 5 to 8 p.m. when I have to cook dinner, have them all talking to me at the same exact time, and then give them baths and put them to bed when I feel absolutely exhausted.
So that self-awareness is key.
Just having a moment of awareness that, okay, God, you're with me. Give me the grace. Come, Holy Spirit. We're going to get through this. Mm-hmm. And I don't do it perfectly, but at least I'm able to kind of call out the steps and have the mental and emotional maturity to say, okay, God, I need your help in this moment. I'm not a perfect mother, but be with me and give me the strength to guide these people.
Yeah. You mentioned how Brad, your husband, is just very even at times in the ups and downs of the hormones and everything else, and just motherhood. I mean, and you talk about that, and you talk about like the nuclear family. Brad's role is different than your role. And so having other moms, because you said, like, you even mentioned, like, so many moms are experiencing what you experienced, and that support structure, you have that in your life.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think it's important for moms to have a moment to vent, right? To share the struggle, right? A lot of the times it's the sleep deprivation combined with the insomnia because the hormones are up and down and you're anxious about your child and what they're doing and how they're going through life and fear of what's to come in the future and the culture and all of that. And to have a support group, a mom's group that can kind of share similar experiences, share the ups and downs of life with you is really important and beautiful. And it's not like we're going there and we're saying, oh, motherhood's such a drudge, like it's horrible and I hate my life. No, but it's being very real with these moms and saying, like, how do you get through this? Like, what do you say to your daughter who is fighting you on every aspect of life right now? And just kind of seeking advice in a different way than you would with your husband. I feel like my husband, we're in the thick of it together in the home life. And so to kind of go to a group of moms, a group of friends who are also fighting the good fight, it really helps. In those moments.
Yeah, to get both the advice, but then also I feel like to just know you're not in it alone, right?
Yeah.
That I'm not going crazy because everybody else is experiencing something similar, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, and then we pray together and we have those moments where it's like we elevate each other back up to that ideal, that standard of the beauty of motherhood.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, it sounds like that moms group, you guys meet weekly, and just like that you trust each other enough to almost call each other out in the sense of like, no, like we can do this, we got this, and to call to that ideal, because sometimes it's easy to live in the complaining or the poor is me, like woe is me kind of experience, but to have each other to support. And
well, I think you gave a homily, it must have been a couple years now, of Pope Benedict. He has this quote of, the world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort, you were made for greatness. And every time I'm struggling in those pits of those moments of like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get through this? Or I'm exhausted, or my children are all talking to me at the same time, my brain can't stop. And I go to that mental coaching of, okay, God, you're calling me to this level. God, help me get to that level. And it takes me out of those moments of, selfishness, and it brings me back up to we were made for greatness. And then I have to teach that to my children, right? I have to tell them, you were made for hard things. You have to do hard things in life. And if you don't see me doing it, then it's going to be hard to pass that on. You can't give what you don't have. And so I want them to see us that we're not just living in our comfort zone.
Yeah.
We're not just living in our own selfish revolving door, but that we're living for another.
going back to exactly what you said, kids will call out inauthenticity. They look for authenticity, and even in their own parents, right? And to be able to show, like, I'm doing this, I'm struggling as well, but I'm going to call you to it.
My kids can see it on my face. They're like, Mommy's mad, Mommy's happy.
They know instantly. If there's, because I think you're right, there's so many people that are in that stage of life right now, right? A bunch of little kids at home just trying to sometimes keep your head above water, survive, but at the same time, give your kids that direction and help, and to help them know who Jesus is and all these things. What is that advice you give to mothers or to parents in this moment that you've heard or you would want to hear?
Absolutely. So I had my third baby in 2020. So Simon was born in April 2020, and everything kind of closed down. And I feel like I kind of backed off too. Like I wasn't going to my mom's group as much. Like I was just like, hunker down, stay home. I have my babies. Let's just all, as the world did. And then I had my fourth baby in 2022. And I felt like I can't do that anymore. I need a support system. I need friends. I need a social group that is going through the same thing. And so I had a newborn baby and I had a 2-year-old last year. And I was nap trapped. So my baby would sleep from 9 to 10. And then my 2-year-old would sleep from 11:30 to 2. And then my baby would sleep from 2 to 3. And so I felt
I'm glad you explained that for the celibate, because I had no idea what you're talking about.
So I felt like I was home all day just putting babies to sleep. And so I basically told my mom's group, I need you guys to come over. Like, and so I'm gonna host every Wednesday. Like, come over, come drink coffee with me, come eat egg casserole with me. Like, I need you to come and support group. And so if there's a mom out there where you feel like you're nap trapped or where you feel like you don't have any friends, go make a friend and say, will you come to my house when my kids are sleeping and have a cup of coffee with me? Yeah. I need to vent. I need to know how you do this, and we can share similar experiences and invite them into your home. Talk to them on a very real level and just get their shared experiences.
Yeah, because we can't live this life alone. We're meant for community. And we need the village. We need the support of others. So yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
If you found this helpful, or if you know somebody in your life that would find this helpful, make sure you send this episode to them, like, share, and remind ourselves to ground ourselves in our faith in order to live it out in the world around us. God bless.